making themselves the center of the story is part of the whole.
Absolutely. Like, for instance, what you guys were talking, I listened in a little bit about, the COVID thing. And I mean, it's a sad situation. And I know all of us have had people that we know who went, yesterday. I don't know if if you knew Aletta Alberts. You probably do.
Who's that?
But anyway, she headed up MultiChoice Africa.
Okay.
So
Oh
now
yes.
I start.
Aletta,
Yes.
she was also in charge of CakeNet for a very long time. Very smart woman in television.
Yes, she left. Now I met her about 26 years ago when I started in television. So I'm not saying this very lightly. But the almost, I wouldn't want to call it hysteria, but there's a tinge of that to it, where people go like, please see me, see me, see me. So that is part of looking for attention. Do you know what I mean? Instead of just going like this.
What did Aletta say?
No, she died.
Oh no, when did she die?
Yesterday.
Good God, that's terrible news. I'm hearing these kinds of stories from people.
Yeah.
And it really is. I've said already, it's very frustrating for me because I don't know what to do with that information. It's very sad. And
yeah.
You hear so much of it in a row. We've spoken to our friend, the psychologist, Dr. Hanan Bushkin, about this too, Shemaine. It's emotionally very draining. Now, how do you cope with that? You seem to me to be a very resourceful person when it comes to digging deep emotionally and spiritually. How do you cope with that? How do you fill up your tank?
Do you know what? I have age to my advantage. At 57, you learn a few things. You learn that it's okay to cry. It's okay to not know. So I give myself a lot of permission. And you know how you try and do the right thing? There is no right thing. Our world's been turned upside down. Yeah. So I really don't know. I have to say that all I know is that the truth that I don't know everything, but that everything is going to work itself out. Those are the two things that I kind of cling on to. Well, when I say cling on to, I try and remember that. And when I say it's going to be, everything will work itself out, I have almost no expectations, because that's where we get tricked into thinking it has to work out a certain way. And then you have expectations and it doesn't work out a certain way, it trips you up.
That's a very profound thing you've just said, because what you're talking about is the difference between what your expectation is and what the outcome actually is. And so many people, I see you both nodding. I'm glad I didn't get that wrong. But the problem is with so many people is that they have an expectation of how things will go. And then when that expectation doesn't actually manifest itself, they feel like reality's betrayed them in some way. So they get upset, right?
Or that life's unfair, which it is.
Life is unfair, and reality doesn't owe you a damn thing. And just because you've lived in peace for 20, 30, 40 years doesn't mean that peace is the norm. And just because you've been in relative comfort for 50 years doesn't mean that comfort is the norm. And also,
thank you.
If you have pain and you talk about people, who've died of coronavirus or other terrible things that have hit people right in between the eyes in the last couple of years, these are parts of life. This idea of, and that's why I get annoyed by that whole stay safe, stay home line. And I mean, at the moment, it's probably still good advice, especially with what's going on the streets of KwaZulu-Natal and even parts of Gauteng. Stay safe, stay home is just a dumb saying for me a lot of the time, because what it's doing is it's saying to people, safety is what you should expect. Safety is what you can try to seek out in this existence. Life is not safe, right? It's not filled with little hidey holes that you can go and sit in and protect yourself from all those things that are going on in the world around you. That's not what life is in any country. There are people in Chicago who were in the middle of riots last year. There are people in Hungary who've been exposed to this kind of thing because there've been protests against lockdowns all over the world. People in Cuba right at the moment. Cuba is in some severe trauma at the moment because Cuba is busy going through their own kind of revolution
Yeah.
against a government that's imposed itself on their lives in the most dictatorial, autocratic way for 70 years, So just be aware of the fact that when you say safety is a priority, or you think that your life is meant to be a certain way, that's not how it's been for human beings for the last couple of thousand years. Safety is the good times, and the rest of the time is kind of what humans are. The default setting is actually to violence. So,
But also, don't you think that stay safe thing means we're trying to protect ourselves from harm? Because
yeah, sure.
I have a son, I'm like, please don't now with the I don't want to call them protests, because protests are regulated and it's a structured thing. There's the looting and I need to swear, but I'm probably
sure.
That's going on. I'm like, watch the road.
You can swear on this show.
I know. So I just go like, watch where you're driving, because I want to protect myself from hurt. Does it make sense? So sometimes you say that because you just don't want to hurt, because somebody that you love might get, hurt or leave or something. So sometimes I think, I'm not sure, I haven't given it any thought. But when you said it annoys you a bit, I thought, it could work both ways, because sometimes it's a blankie for yourself.
No, of course. I think that's a very valid point. I just want to throw in this additional bit of information. I've noticed that there are a whole lot of really smart people who are operating on the side of, good law-abiding citizens in this country, and who are doing incredible things. For example, there is now an app which allows you, it's an unrest tracker app, and you can actually download this app, whether you're on iPhone or on Android, and this thing will actually tell you where you could, what areas you could stay away from. It's like a live.
Is it a South African thing?
Yeah. For now. So depending on where you are in the country, you just look up Unrest app and you'll see what I'm talking about. Yes, Mbulelo.
Remember I told, I hate to go back, but if you listen a couple of episodes back, I told you and Pumi, and you both pushed back. I said, politicians can be replaced by apps. I'm telling you, admin is better done by computers. Listen, now we don't need Bheki to wear his stupid gangster outfit and come on television and tell us where the problems are. No, don't worry about it. We've got cameras set up by these guys called Google, and these smart South Africans have gone and created an app now. They can track that. They can track where the police are. They can track where traffic is. We can do all of this stuff without 90% of the people who are looting the money, much worse than the terrible human beings that are looting the shops now.
So it's
here, magnificent. People are great.
If you want to look it up, this is what it looks like on the screen, right? And I know I'm sorry it's the wrong way around, but it's called the Unrest map, and you can find it on appengine.policylab.app. And what it does is it tracks incidents of violence, looting, arson, protests, and other instability during the nationwide unrest, July 2021. So this was made by somebody in the last couple of days, and it's considered almost like a Waze of unrest, right? So instead of a Waze for traffic, this will tell you, because it's user generated content. So people who are actually in places where things have happened, they will give you
the update.
At what's been going on. And if you look at the map of South Africa on here, which again, I'm sorry the screen is so bad, but you can see it's mostly it's localized to KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng, and then there are one or two places like I see on the border of KZN and Mpumalanga, down in the sort of southeast of that area, and then one or two in Nelspruit. These are the main areas of concern. And you can actually go in and you can see what's happening. There are fires. The fire obviously means Naledi Mall in Vosloorus, arson, right? And then if you look at Tembisa, there's violence in Tembisa on paramedics. That's from News 24. So it actually coordinates and aggregates information from all over the place.
You mean paramedics are that brave that they go into it?
Yeah, they have to. That's what they do. So paramedics will go in to help someone who's been shot, for example, or someone who's been hurt in a car accident, or someone who's been caught in the crossfire of protesters and whatever their target was. and then the paramedics will go in to help them, and then the paramedics themselves will be targeted. That's it's just madness.
With this kind of mentality where people are a mob, it's crazy. I think they're risking their lives. I suppose
for
that's
example,
what they probably think they signed up for, but it's brave.
I didn't know this, but even in Mamelodi in Pretoria, there's been some looting. Midrand, there's one incident in Tembisa of violence that I mentioned just now on paramedics. There's some incidents in Sandton and Alex. So you inform yourself so you know what's going on. This is helpful information. This is the kind of information that we should be sharing. So just go to appengine.policylab.app and you'll find all the different bits of information, no matter where you are. That's appengine, appengine.policylab.app. All right, there. That's helpful. Okay.
That's awesome.
I wrote a thing yesterday because I had lots and lots of people asking me, like, why are you not saying anything about this? And I forgot that not everyone listens to this show. And this is usually where we talk about stuff. And yesterday we did discuss a whole lot of this in some detail. But I wrote a blog and I recorded a blog last night, which I think puts all my feelings and my thoughts around what's going on in this country into a fairly succinct 2-3 minutes, which you can listen to at any time you want to. It was easy to write because it just flowed right out of me. It's I'm seeing this quite clearly. This is not a confusing situation for me, although there is anarchy and violence and criminality all around us. I think that this is a coordinated effort by a group of people who for the longest time have been trying to pull the wool over our eyes, and a group of people who've been using ordinary South Africans as human shields while they steal. And those people are now pulling their last card, and they're using their last card. And that last card is to deploy criminals and desperate people as their foot soldiers into everyone else's world to make it seem like the whole place is falling apart, and it's not. And you've got to be very sensible about this too. You mustn't let the propaganda and the nonsense and the feelings that you're feeling, which are I'm going to say your feelings do matter and your feelings are important, but they are not necessarily the best source of reliable information. You need to be quite clear about what's going on around you now, because making mistakes just because you feel a certain way when things are a little unstable as they are at the moment can lead to slightly worse consequences for you. Just use your head more than your heart at this point, if you don't mind my saying. I know, Shemaine, that's probably something that you don't like to hear because you're more of an emotional and spiritual person, right?
No, actually, that's I incorporate it all. So, I cannot be anything. I cannot just be spiritual because I live in the real world. I use those are sometimes crutches, sometimes guides and guidelines for me to make sense of life, because I do not know anyone who's had a life without many bumps. So you got to be spiritual in the real world. If something happens, I'm gonna bleed, and when I bleed, I might faint, or I might do something else. Or I might just panic. So no, I actually think it's holistic, and you make like you're not spiritual because you know what I mean. Because spirituality is not stuff that you say. Spiritual, it's a way that you live, that you incorporate into your lifestyle. So, so I believe in both heart and head, and I'm actually quite head, and that's why I think I do spiritual so often, because otherwise I'll get lost in my head. It's noisy up here.
Yeah.
So
no, it is. And listen, I'm the first to admit that I have reformed in terms of the way I feel about these things that we call spiritual or nebulous or difficult to test under laboratory conditions, because life is very, very boring, first of all, if you only exist in the material. And second of all, there is a lot that we cannot explain. And to close yourself off to that stuff and to be completely right brain about these things is is missing a whole part of the story. It isn't, and I don't normally like the word holistic for the same reasons I don't like the word safe. Is that a lot of lazy people use it as a way to disguise the fact that they haven't really thought things through. But I do feel like it is holistic. So
yeah,
a couple of things,
sorry. Before we move on, I just want to say at this stage and just bring us together as a in the conscious dimension that the mistake
in front of us.
Well, the mistake that we all make is that we are human beings that sometimes have spiritual experiences. Actually, we're spiritual beings that are having a human experience. Namaste.
Yes, all right.
Namaste.
Namaste. I want to find out from Shemaine what's been happening in her world in a little while. We've also got some headlines to get to, and there are a couple of really interesting.
My world is boring. Stop it.
Really, is it? Have you been boring?
As per usual.
Have you been looking after other people and teaching people? And how old's your son now?
37.
You know, he's not at school anymore. Because I was going to say to you later on in the show, we've got someone called Meg Fowler who's going to join us. She's got a business called PlaySense, and for a lot of parents who have been homeschooling their kids and teaching their kids, and now because the winter holidays have been extended thanks to what's going on, there are a lot of parents who are feeling very frustrated. And we've got Meg Fowler who's going to tell us about igniting your child's senses and super senses, she says. And we'll find out about how to, give your kids the stimulation that they need without adding extra responsibility to your own shoulders. Because for many parents, they're just at their wits' end with what to do with their kids now. they've been parenting, they've been teaching, they've been doing all the work, all the heavy lifting for such a long time that many people who thought that this parenting thing was all sorted, they had it figured out, they've just discovered that actually they're a long way from there. So quick things that we've got to get to in the comments. First of all, Tony is asking, could you repeat the URL for the Unrest app? Yes, it's appengine.policylab.app. That's appengine.policylab.app, app. And that's where you'll find it. It's just a useful map which will show you all the latest incidents and give you an idea of where all the shit's going down.
And you can find that on Cliff Central on the app. We'll make sure that the details are in the description. We'll put the URL.
Thank you very much, Mbulelo. Errol says, other countries have had their violence, but their police and army know how to deal with it. Ours don't. Yes, but what's amazing is to see ordinary citizens forming these neighborhood watches, these patrols. You've seen it on the news the last couple of nights you've been watching. I'll tell you what, South Africans are resourceful people. You do not need to think that you're alone just because our army is useless. There's some very funny army videos going around of, when our army can't climb over the obstacles in the obstacle course, or when they fire a rocket and
was that real though? Was that real? That cannot be real. That's staged. Come on.
No. Our army are pretty damn useless.
No,
I have never seen, honestly, never. And bear in mind, I studied in PE, where there's a naval base. I lived in Cape Town, and I'm from Gauteng. I've never seen a South African soldier that's in better shape than me. I've never. I've never.
It's true.
Isn't that embarrassing? I've never. Yeah. All of them look like they're carrying triplets.
And not only that, but they can't even march in time. I mean, like being able to march in time.
Stop it!
Oh, really?
I'm trying not to laugh.
It's
because I'm seeing stuff.
Don't panic, because ordinary citizens are better positioned to be able to take care of everything anyway. Apparently, I just got a picture from Ruan who says it is -7 degrees where he is. He says there's going to be no looting at that temperature. Well, you'd be surprised, Ruan. But there we are. All right, Graham says we should shun these people from polite society for good. It's not a race or class issue. It's not political either. This is entirely a morality issue. Well, that's pretty much what I wrote in my little piece yesterday. I said there are two South Africas. This is what Thabo Mbeki was saying, years ago. There are two South Africas, but it's not a division along racial lines or along poverty and wealth. It's actually a division around morality and law-abiding. politicians. The good people who see civilization as being important, and the bad people who, in this case, just see everything as an opportunity to destroy, loot, and steal. And if you're in the first group, then you know who your allies are, because there are old gogos who live in rural parts of South Africa who are as moral and upstanding as the most self-righteous taxpayer. These are the people who inform the morality of the moral majority of this country. You've got granny-headed households, as I said in my article, who have been infusing their children, their grandchildren, and even their great-grandchildren with a good religious upbringing, a good moral upbringing, the difference between right and wrong. Those are the people you can depend on right now. Those are not people who are engaging in violence and stupidity. Those people would have done that anyway. They're just looking for an excuse, and the excuse is provided here by the politicians. So let's all be very aware of the fact that there are people who choose to live in a society that's governed by morals, ethics, mores, rules, and there's a part of the society that just will steal a TV. You have to choose which one you're in. That's what it is, basically.
So what do you make of the fact that some people are saying it's hunger, bruh?
No, it's not. It's, you know what, it's not hunger. And that's what a lot of these protesters seem to be saying. They're singing off the same hymn sheet as if it's been provided to them by politicians. Those people were hungry last week and the week before as well, but they weren't stealing.
Mbulelo, he's got something to say.
I think we need to be clear. Listen, your friend Socrates you're referring to earlier has said violence is the language of the disenfranchised, and there's an element of that being fed by the ANC as well. And but I think the reality is there are 60 million people in this country, give or take. I mean, depending what the numbers are, is what, maybe 150,000. I haven't checked the numbers, so I don't know how many looters there have been. We need to keep it very clear. They're not the only hungry people in the country. There's lots of hungry people who are making a plan that isn't being deleterious to the society.
I mean, if you were hungry, Mbulelo, and we've been poor as a family, where we were like worrying about where our next meal was going to come from. I talked about this just the other day. Shemaine, I'm sure there've been days and perhaps even months where you've thought, I don't know where the next paycheck's coming from. Mbulelo, you've also, at some point in your life, you've probably looked at it and gone, oh my God, I mean, you've got family who are also poor. That doesn't mean you make bad decisions. It's still up to you to make the right decision. And then loads of poor people who are very good people. And there are lots of criminals who are very bad people. And the two are not the same. I hate the way that there's so many South Africans who speak for the poor. People who've got nothing to do with the poor, who put themselves in a position where, like, well, let me tell you, those people are very hungry. Well, how do you
Sorry.
know? Show me your mandate that you got from the poor people of whichever part of the country you're talking about, because you didn't get a mandate from them. Who the hell are you to talk for them?
Yeah.
Politicians do it better than anybody, and I know I give these people a tough time, but we know who does it the best of all. They generally wear cloaks and funny hats in Rome.
Oh, those people too.
Yeah, they speak on behalf of God.
Yeah, and Graham says if they're so hungry, they obviously need to steal a flat screen TV. Now you see, that's the point.
Yep. In Mercedes Benz sometimes, I mean, come on.
Exactly. There's one video that I saw yesterday of these guys who were loading a couple of TVs and some other electronic equipment into a Mercedes. And I was like, you guys aren't hungry and poor. Bullshit with that.
No, they're not. They're not. I saw horrific things, and I'm going like, this cannot be happening. I mean, did you see the air tracking? So in Durban or in Pietermaritzburg, where they went to the warehouses. I was like, how is that even allowed? How does no one do something about that? I didn't understand that. In the beginning of the year, or was it last year? The year's gone so fast. When the students were protesting, there was very swift action against them. And this, I thought, come on now, the students had something to say. This is just unreal. So I don't know. I know that they're saying that the police were overwhelmed, but I still battle to believe that they couldn't do something. And yeah, we don't want people to lose their lives, because that is kind of like not the ideal, and that shouldn't necessarily be. But at the same time, you cannot all be standing there and going like, I mean, if you're going to deploy a group of police, send a substantial amount that can actually do something, not a few here and a few there and a few there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you
Just by the way, I see, here's a message that I just put up now from Tracy. She said Julius got himself banned from Twitter, but he's back on. I mean, I just went onto Twitter now, and he's back on. So I don't know how long that ban lasted, but
it's like the Donald.
Yeah, please don't. I can't believe that this guy is actually allowed to carry on causing trouble on social media. Again, I'll say yesterday, just by contrast, Twitter, we should all, everybody who's listening to this show right now should send in a complaint about people who are spreading violence, hatred, and ugliness. And we all have to actually write this down. We have to send it in on our app and say, this guy needs to be banned because he's stoking violence, hate speech, and he's making the country more divided and worse off with every word that comes out of his mouth. This is where you need to actually report these people, because they banned Donald Trump, right, for saying, don't go to the Capitol, but support me. This is kind of a revolution. It was much softer than anything Julius has said, and they banned him. As president of the United States, they managed to ban him Twitter. So I think we can get Julius taken off of Twitter, because you take that away from him, like 3/4 of his power is gone. And we don't need him shouting from the sidelines at this point. Just like we don't need Carl Niehaus, or we don't need right-wing. We don't need right-wing elements either. So report these people if you see them online, please. It takes 20 people, and Twitter will go, oh my God, we've got to take notice. And there are more than 20 people listening to us right now. So please add your voice to all of that, and send a report into Twitter this morning. Find a tweet of his, it's not hard to do, where he's basically causing trouble and stirring up division, and where there's hate speech. It's not hard with Julius. It's pretty much every time he says anything. And have him removed from Twitter for a while, just while things need to be calmed down. If this is the way we operate now, and the precedent's been set by Twitter that they ban people, so let's ban the right people at this point.
I hope this goes away fast.
I want us to get to Sean Sanders, which we'll do in a short while. Sean is, of course, the co-founder of Revix, and we're going to speak to him about cryptocurrency, which is something everybody's thinking about right now, because when things are a little unstable, people need to find a place where they think their money will be safe. And of course, a lot of people are worried about the value of the rand at the moment. And Sean is going to give us a quick update in a moment or two about what he thinks is going on. We'll find out what we can do with the world of cryptocurrency, incorporating that into our lives, and hopefully making more sense of everything that's going on around us. I wonder if there's a reason that the response time of the South African police and the SANDF has been slow, says Monica, and they haven't stopped this. There is someone who wants this to happen. I think there are a lot of politicians who want this to happen. They're enjoying this because this removes responsibility from them. As who was it? Was it someone on this show yesterday? It was Simpiwe. It was here. Simpiwe on the show yesterday who said the 500 billion has already been looted. That was looted long ago. This looting of TVs and things is small fry compared to that. So who do you think want to distract us from the actual looting that's taken place? Those are the people you must be aware of and very concerned about. All right, let's go to Sean. He is here. Hey, Sean Sanders, how are you? The co-founder of Revix. Nice to see you. You guys in Cape Town are looking at the rest of the country like we're a bunch of raving lunatics at the moment, aren't you?
Well, for the time being. So morning, guys. I mean, like, you never say never, right? You wait a week or two and maybe things change down here. But for the time being, yeah, everything's good. Touch wood.
So, Sean, I mentioned just a moment ago that when people are feeling that the world around them is a bit unstable and a bit unpredictable, which is, very much the case in South Africa right now, they worry about their money. They worry about the value of the currency. This is a perfect time for people to be thinking about cryptocurrency. But there also are some incredible developments in the world of cryptocurrency this week. So there's quite a lot to talk about. Where do you want to start today?
Well, I actually want to bring up something that's maybe outside of crypto and that's got to do with just protecting your portfolio from rand depreciation. So with everything going on within South Africa, I mean, it's only normal to feel a little uncertain. And you've often heard about investment banks and all the rest talk about a rand hedge investment, which really means that if the rand weakens, this investment increases in value, or at least maintains its real value in dollar terms. And I'm quite excited today to announce that we've actually had this on the platform before, and it is still there, but it's not something we market all that much, which is USDC, so USD coin. So this is a cryptocurrency, so it does bring in the crypto aspect, but it's a cryptocurrency that's 1-for-1 backed by the US dollar, and it's issued by a New York trust company. And the beauty of this product is that you get dollar exposure, direct dollar exposure, without having to actually send your funds offshore and go through that really painful and expensive process of moving or exporting your capital. So this is quite exciting. Now, that's not the biggest breakthrough because, I mean, hell, we've been able to buy dollars for a long time. But within the next month, we're going to launch a savings vault. And that also sounds a little intimidating. But a savings vault, just like a savings account, allows you to earn interest, but on your USDC holdings, so on your dollar holdings. And you can earn a comparable interest rate, and this is really the most exciting part, a comparable interest rate to what you would earn in a South African bank. So remember that in South Africa, you earn interest rates, if you're lucky, of between 5 to 7% currently, maybe a little bit more. Now, that's in rands, and not that many people want to be holding rands, especially given what's happened. In fact, the rand's actually depreciated 9% over the last 35 days. So we are going to offer you exactly the same, if not more, interest on your USDC holdings, so your dollar holdings, as you would get in a South African bank account. Currently in the US, you get an interest rate of between 0.35 and 0.5% with your bank. And we think this is a really big breakthrough. So we're quite excited to be able to announce that. Now, because this is only being launched in the next little while, you're going to have to get started by buying USDC. And we've got a cool promotion that's going to be running from the end of the week. And that's that you can buy USDC, so buy those dollars with absolutely no fee whatsoever. So we're waiving the fee for the next 2 weeks. So if you get started later this week, that'll be from Thursday, you can literally buy dollars for absolutely no fee. We want to get you to experience what it's like to actually own a non-emerging market currency, so owning some dollars.
That's very handy. So I'm going to go on to Revix now. And of course, if you're interested in this, there are a lot of people who are more interested in Bitcoin and who are more interested in buying some Ethereum. But at the same time, if you do want to move some of your rands into dollars, you can buy some USDC. You don't have to go through, as Sean said, all the trouble and the pain of having to do actual Forex, foreign exchange. You can do it this way. It's very handy. That's very useful. While we're talking about this, a lot of people, I suppose, also want to know about general things in crypto. We've seen a little bit of a flattening out of all that instability that we saw over the last 2 or 3 months. It's settled somewhere around almost $32,000 now for a Bitcoin. What are your immediate and medium-term predictions for where that might go, Sean, and based on what's happening in the crypto markets?
Yes, at the moment, you have sort of seen crypto being range bound. I mean, Bitcoin's been stuck between $30,000 and $38,000 now for the last 45 days. And it's always difficult when it establishes a range. And this isn't, just trader talk. It's just the psychology behind the market, really. But if you look at just the crypto market in general, there's a lot of uncertainty about what's going on, a lot of regulatory uncertainty, both locally in South Africa and offshore. So that's sort of weighing in on a lot of retail investors. I can tell you that there's still a lot of bigger fish, a lot of big hedge funds, pension funds, endowments that are entering the space slowly but surely. So you've got a lot of retail investors selling in the market and then the bigger players buying. Now, over the long term, we're still very bullish. I mean, the market always goes in cycles. You get this euphoric sort of jump and pump, which is what we saw earlier this year. And I mean, it was crazy. I mean, we were coming on the show every week saying, listen, the market's up 10, 15%, but it was week on week on week. I think it was for about 10 weeks straight. And now it's had this correction. I mean, the market's down from its all-time high by 55, 60%. And the sort of response that we've had to the market is the same thing we said in 2018, which is to say, don't go run out and make a really big purchase right now, because yes, the market could go lower, but maybe if this is the time that you wanted to enter, this is a good time. So, start accumulating now on a regular basis. And it's something called dollar cost averaging. or rand cost averaging, which means that you get the average price over a period of time. So just adding, say, 1,000 rand every single month or 2,000 rand every single month, that gives you the average price over a period of time. So that's our best advice. I mean, where will the market go over the next while? You're always sort of guessing on that. Over the long term, which is where we look, this market's going up to 10x from where it is at least.
Marvelous. Okay, Sean, we'll speak to you again soon. You can go to revix.com. You've just heard from Sean all about the USDC, which he says there's no fee at all. They're going to waive the fee for the moment. So if you're interested in getting some, that's a pretty exciting reason, a motivation to go and get involved right now. Good to see you, man. We'll check in with you next week.
Brilliant. Awesome, guys. Have a good rest of the day.
Sean Sanders, revix.com. In a market we've never seen before. Don't guess. Diversify and sign up to Revix for free today. You don't have to add, everything you got. In fact, that's probably a bad idea, but put in $500. See what happens. You never know. Might be the best $500 you've invested in the last while. And considering how crazy things are at the moment, you may as well diversify your portfolio a little bit. Even if you don't think you have much of a portfolio to speak of, everybody has something, and that's something you don't want to end up being worth nothing. Okay, so lots of things to talk about today and plenty of good comments coming in from all kinds of people from everywhere. Someone, Sibia Nduduzi, says, Pumi looks different this morning. It's not Pumi.
I'm watching the sun. I am. Mbulelo, you can get off the floor now.
That's good.
I'm watching the sun come up, guys. Oh, it's gorgeous.
So for people who don't remember Shemaine Harris, she is the co-host of our Cliff Central show, Beyond Eyes and Ears, which was on for many years, right at the beginning of cliffcentral.com. And she's one of the family members we decided we needed to check in with again today. So Shemaine happily could accommodate us, and she's joining us from her house this morning. And it does look like the sun's coming up right in front of you.
It is. I'm looking at it. I have to sometimes I put on glasses because it's one of my fun things to do. I'm really grateful for that. I get to see the sun go and up and down, and the moon as well.
From your window, are you positioned east, west, or north, south? What's the?
Look, I don't know. I'm on a hill.
You got a hill. Right. All right, very good. There's apparently, according to Zach, there's a video of, I think this is what you were talking about earlier, Shemaine, a video of Duduzane Zuma that circulated yesterday where he's asking the looters, wherever they are, to loot responsibly, which is what you were saying. I mean, how stupid is that? Right?
Sitting in what looks like a fancy hotel or something. I don't know. That is so sad.
I've interviewed Duduzane Zuma a couple of times, and I've spoken to him on the phone a couple of times and met him, and he's a nice young man. There's nothing about his personality that should be off-putting to anybody. He's charming. He's well-mannered. He's a nice person. But
so was Hitler.
Yeah. Well, you are right. And this is the point. I mean, I judge you by what you do, not by what you say. Because if you met Duduzane or you met his father, you'd go, well, these are nice people. And you'd probably invite them over for a drink. The problem is that their behavior and the things that they choose to associate with blacken their reputation rather badly. And this is not a family who've done this country any great service. And I'm afraid Duduzane is just he's a bit of an amateur. As much as I'd like to say that the guy, may have a point. He may be popular with a certain group of people, especially those people who've supported his father. I think he's an amateur. And I think the way that he has behaved through all of this has shown that he's completely lacking in the political know-how that his father has. He's actually he's a bit of a joke.
It's because he knows, and this is why people are so attached to the tribal model, especially if they're at the top, is that generally if the father or the matriarch or the patriarch is still alive, there's a power in that. Once his father is gone, which is why this is so scary, I think, for all of the Zuma kids, once the father goes, nobody cares who any of you are. You can't claim Conte Wesize, you can't claim liberation, you can't, with the father, you kind of still get that. You still get the Zulu kind of semi-royalty, pseudo-royalty connection and leadership, but they are nothing. They are useless without him. They have never contributed to the society.
Sibia makes a good point that part of the reason he's popular is because he's a good-looking guy. He's popular with like young girls, especially. Yes, but those young girls, they don't vote, so that's not going to help him. I'm afraid they don't vote. I mean, like young teenage girls don't vote. They you have to be 18 or older, and they're not motivated to go to the polls and stand in a line just because someone is good-looking. They're not going to get any payback on that. You know, they're not thinking about it politically. If they want to sleep with Duduzane Zuma, that's a different path that you have to follow.
He probably doesn't want to sleep with them because the world's his oyster. He can go to Dubai and go sleep with someone on a yacht or something like that. Right. Sorry, I'm being really ridiculously mean right now.
But you're right.
But you're 100% correct. And he is married. I mean, you know, he's married. He's got kids. So he's not available anyway, even if he was to sleep. Well, you know, no. Okay, yeah. I know what you're going to say. So Kiabetswe says, and I think this is interesting, this is legitimate desperation and criminal opportunism. You can understand people's desperation and disagree with their behavior. Government can treat this as a security threat and have socio-political intervention. I think that's a good point. I just don't think that there is a will to do so. Like, I think a lot of the stuff you're seeing right now suits the politicians. And I'm not saying that's the case for like Cyril, but it could be the case for Becky Taylor. It could be the case for people in the ANC, NEC who are already in trouble.
We knew we're sitting we've been knowing that we're sitting in a hotspot for a long time. And most South Africans are actually being drawn together, this time not because of sport, or for the past year and a half since COVID hit, not because of sport or anything external, but because of what's happening inside of us. We've become tired, and we started to band together. We're making issues less racial than before. So we're looking at the situation in a broader way. So I think all of us have started to become really tired. It's a fatigue, not just, it's COVID fatigue, it's economic fatigue, it's just like racist fatigue, all of it. And we're going, somewhere we got to stop and somewhere we got to start over. So we knew that we're sitting on something that is completely hot and burning. And this is what is happening is, yes, it's symptomatic of how ill we are as a society. I don't know. There's a political journalist. Well, he's not. I don't know if you guys know of Gogo Aubrey Machete.
Yes, I know Aubrey Machete. Yeah, he's
a
politics professor.
Yeah. So, man, if you listen to him, he encapsulates things in a way that you go like, okay. So basically, the responsibility from the top that they shirked is why we are in this bullshit situation. We're so beautiful as a country, as a nation. We've got so much to give, but because we've and when I say we, because we've been so lenient with our politicians, I include myself. We've given them we handed them the baton to continue doing what they're doing. So
we have been very forgiving. And how many politicians have actually gone to jail before Jacob Zuma went for contempt of court, by the way, not for fraud or corruption? And we know how much money's been stolen.
I should probably close a blind.
Yeah, it looks like you almost look like that. That opening montage from Touched by an Angel. Yes.
Should I close the blind?
What a ball. Right?
Should I close the blind?
Well, it's 7:00. We got to take a break anyway, so I'll let you do that while we break. CliffCentral.com. Let us know what's on your mind this morning. You can get hold of us on 0797482090. You can message us directly on the app on YouTube and tell us what's up in your world. We want to hear from you. Tell us what your areas of interest are and what you'd like to discuss with us this morning. We are ready to hear from you.
This week on Auto Central.
Last question comes from Megan, who's asked, I wanted to ask what the AMG line is in a normal Mercedes. So this would be almost like an A200 with the AMG badging.
Well, Megan, first off, we were talking about the 333i Alpina earlier on, which was the pre-shadow line kind of body styling, etc. And then Mercedes-Benz got into the AMG body styling. So AMG simply denotes a cosmetic upgrade. It doesn't have any engine upgrades. Catch Auto Central, SA's #1 motoring podcast, every Monday at 9 a.m.
Just because it's about technology, connecting your business to the rest of the world doesn't mean you need to send rockets to space and use complicated solutions. Want to simplicate things? Well, join Jaco Voigt, who is the CEO of Catalytic, on the Unbundled podcast. With skin in the game and a keen focus on educating and assisting you and your business, Jaco decodes all the aspects of connectivity, security, and cloud solutions. Unbundled is brought to you by Catalytic and is available on cliffcentral.com, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you were wondering where Jaco and the team were yesterday on Unbundled, they decided, we decided for them that they weren't going to come into the studio yesterday, so they will catch up with you again next week. All things being equal, lots of stuff had to be put on hold this week, right? So I think a lot of people figuring things out.
Oh, man, it's still there.
Yeah. Myself and the Yentas where I live, we've had to, and this is hard, Gareth, don't laugh. We've obviously had to switch our Woolworths from the one we were normally at.
No.
Yeah. So you know, I don't want to reduce what the people in the KZN largely are going through, but we've now had to move from the one Woolworths, which is equidistant to the other one. It's just now the view is actually not as good to the other one. So, you know, we're all going through it. And as every single douchebag like me who lives in middle-class society says, we're all in it together, which we are not, by the way. The things that are happening in KZN are awful.
By the way, I mean, we heard this, we're all in this together thing at the beginning of the COVID lockdowns. But I'm curious, like, have you been asked to join any neighborhood watch groups in your Yenta riddled area?
You know what? I mean, I chat and walk with the girls anyway, so we don't need to get on the group thing because Gail doesn't like you know, Elon, and it's just it's a mess. So you know,
people are fighting anyway.
Yeah.
Oh my God. All right. As I said a little earlier, we are going to be joined by Meg Fora, who is from PlaySense, which is a business where they're trying to help parents who are just, I suppose you could say, sick of their kids, but who are being who are being relied upon to be parents, teachers, babysitters, and have to work very much of the time. It's a tough job being a parent right now, and the school holidays probably seem interminable to most parents.
Come on, it's always been a tough job being a parent.
That's true. But if your kids are only going back on the 25th and you're watching that calendar thinking, how the hell am I going to survive? Maybe Meg will be able to help you with Playbox, which is her business. And what they do is they give you some activities that you and your kids can do this school holiday. And obviously, there's a certain age range here, but we'll talk to Meg about that a little bit later on. Hopefully, that'll help some parents.
Yeah. Speaking of loved ones, and obviously this putting people under pressure. Let me. I got the most electrifying phone call from somebody I've known for, let's say, 18, 19 years last night. He's made me very mad over the last 2 years because he was cheating is a strong term, but he was certainly extracurricular activities on the side, and he knows my rule. Don't tell me. Like, my thing is, you know what? I'm not a moralist. The world is the world. Don't tell me, because then you put me in a situation. I don't like to lie. I don't like to lie when people tell me. And we're close, and I know his lady. But last night he called me, and he's back at his old stuff again. And he said, you know, part of making the relationship work in lockdown is the fact that they're away from each other quite a lot. You know, he said, but now she's with them all the time. He said, no, his words are, you can't eat chicken every day, verbatim. But and I was like, yeah, no, it's, and they've been together for like 7 years.
No, I know what your rule is. You don't like your friends to tell you when they've been partaking in extracurricular activities, because then it drags you in. But now you're in. What are you going to do? So what's your advice to
He's
him?
telling us.
In fact, I'm totally in, because yesterday he wasn't answering, because he's phoning me from the other lady's house, by the way.
Oh, God.
Yeah, to kind of, now he's trying to ease his guilt and saying, yeah, you won't believe what happened, but hey, you can understand. You know what I mean, bro? I'm like,
Are you
why?
sure you still have a friend after this?
Well, you know, you can't choose. Like, well, what do you do if your mom was to cheat on your dad? Well, what do you do? Change families? You don't. It's not a soccer team. You don't transfer. You know, he's been there for me for 18 years, and he's at the very core been sensational for me as an actual friend. And now, yeah, this behavior. But now I hate it. But I am wondering on a serious level how people are doing, because I would imagine not just parent to children. I mean, this part of a relationship may be working is people are at work. You know, you're busy with stuff, and then you come back together at 6 o'clock in the evening. But now that's kind of gone, and you're seeing because most of us don't really ever see the full spectrum of our partners. I was thinking about this after the phone call. We only get the highlights, right? Work, morning, kids, sports events, Saturdays. You know, there's stuff to take them away from you, so you're not always experiencing every single idiosyncrasy they have. I just wonder how couples are managing now. It must be brutal. It must be absolutely brutal for people.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the big story at the moment is now all of this violence and looting and criminal behavior that we see in mostly KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng. But for many people now, this has been a year and a half, or maybe even longer for some people, that they've been in lockdown mode. And that comes with all of its challenges, which we've discussed on the show a million times. But for me, I mean, the longest relationship I've ever been in is like 2.5 years. And we're really rapidly approaching that sort of timeline now for people who started lockdown romances. Remember when that was something we talked about? It was like a flippant thing. You're like, oh, you know, we're going to be locked down for 2 weeks to flatten the curve. I think I can handle 2 weeks of someone living with me. And, well, 3 days in, people were ready to give up. I don't know.
Apparently, violence escalated in families. And divorces.
Yeah, sadly, in this country, that's not really the funniest thing in the world, because it comes with all kinds of ugliness. But, you know, there are people who they thought it would be fine. Oh, no, this will be a quick thing and we'll try it out. This is exciting. It's a different way of doing things. I'll move in with you and we'll see what happens. It's not going well for some people. And when Bolelo talks about his friend who's now, you know, let's say cheating. That's
strong.
No, but that sounds like a serial thing.
No, it's only the second time in 8 years.
No, well,
that's way too much.
Oh, is that too much? Okay. Oh.
So unless the woman has the right to do the same thing, you see, I'm all for that. I'm going like, yeah, you want to do that? Can we discuss this so that we have the kind of playing field that is that's open? go background. I'm trying to do something with this background. So if the woman can do that, then bloody hell. Then the man can do that, you know, to his heart's content, but give the woman her option as well.
What do you what do you suggest here, Shemaine? Because I think Mbulelo is actually asking for advice from us. I think he's trying to figure out a way to do the right thing for his friend without moralizing and without interfering. But at the same time, he doesn't really want to be involved. He am I right, Mbulelo? You want out of this. You don't want to be the person who's being called on.
You know what? I don't care about the morality of the situation. I'm a very selfish person. I care about myself. Now you're putting me in a position where she's texting me last night because you're not answering the phone. Just say, oh, have you heard from him? Like now I have to ignore her call, and it's a thing for me. I'm a bachelor. I choose this life. I choose not to have such things. And now you putting on my plate, like I don't want that. But in a very real sense, is think of the people that were in. We must know, all of us must know at least one couple that were in relationship counseling before this. Let's not take it to the extreme. Imagine what this has done in terms of a negative way for them. I imagine so many.
Maybe he wants you to tell her, and therefore he tells you because you tell him, don't tell me that. That is, for me, that is like, I'm telling you so you could tell her, because he knows that you don't care for this bullshit and so tell her and tell him, I'm going to tell your wife, and then see what he does. If he still tells you, you've got your answer.
Let me tell you something. Don't ever put me in that position.
That's well thought through.
No, I once did that. I will never again pick a side in this situation. I once was in that situation, and I told the girlfriend because I thought, oh, this is wrong. Then they got back together. Guess what? Now she's saying, now he's thinking, oh, you're not even a good mate. You would tell on me. And now she's back with him, and that friendship ended. I will never again, because people, no, not me. No, Shemaine, I will never.
But then they were not really your friends. Then they were never really your friends. So good that you without them, because if it's a friend will say like, okay, let's approach this, like Gareth's word, holistically.
That was a 15-year friendship with a friend ruined like that because of what happened there, where I went and told her, and then they got back together, and then now I'm the guy who wanted it to happen.
Well, here's some.
Wasn't your fault, baby.
Here's advice from someone who wants to give it to you straight up. Dude 59 says, Mbulelo, the guilt is eating at his soul and his balls. He needed to tell someone, and you were that person. You're his best mate. Act like one.
What does that mean? Act like that.
Well, funnily enough, we covered this on Monday with Dr. Hanna when we were talking to
I heard that conversation.
Yeah.
Therefore, I asked, what does that mean? Because I know you guys have the background to it.
We had Mark Sham on as well, and we were talking about how guys have a different way of helping each other out and of correcting each other's bad behavior and or giving each other advice. They do it in private. So, I mean, I know you're the kind of guy who doesn't mess around. You don't bullshit people. So you need to sit down with him and explain that this is now becoming your problem and it's not fair of him to make it your problem. And you need to say to him, if you want my advice on how you're behaving, here it is. If you don't want my advice on how you're behaving, just tell me to stop and I'll shut up. I don't need to give this to you anymore. But this is what I think is going to happen. And then you step away and you let him make the decision.
Yeah, he needs to be a mate as well. So, dude, if Mbulelo is going to have to be a mate, that friend has to be a mate as well, because he's putting him on the spot in a really, really difficult situation. It's not nice to have that information. We've all been there, you know.
What are you expected to do with it?
That's very annoying to put in this position.
I don't think, as much as this conversation is interesting, there's so much going on at the moment that I feel we're almost, we're like ostriches with our heads in the sand. I just got this message from Nicholas, who says, thank you and the team for making me smile this morning. I've been barricaded in my bedroom after a night of non-stop gunfire and explosions in the distance, the smell of burning and the sound of sirens. I'm not easily traumatized, but I'm well and truly freaked out at the moment. Thank you for bringing some normal into my world, even if it's only for a few hours. I'm over this shit. Cheers. You know, this is very difficult. I also got an email from somebody who says that Durban in the last 48 hours has been really, really scary. This person says, I've been on tour in Iraq and 2 tours in Afghanistan in an 11-year career in the British Army from 2004 to 2015. And the people who know me know I don't overplay the situation. Civilians are fighting on the front line in KZN. I'm not sure if the situation is the same in Gauteng, but the police are overwhelmed in my hometown. The 6 SANDF personnel that they sent to Durban North are overwhelmed. Ordinary men and women who've stood shoulder to shoulder, untrained to protect their communities, are exhausted. People hide in their homes scared. Some in the suburbs try to go along with their day as normal as possible to try and not let it overwhelm them. But people have expanded their networks and expended all their private ammunition in the past 2 days. They've worked together to get restocked, but even those supplies are running low. Gun shops open at their own risk to help us where they can and when it's moderately safe, but we're constrained by abiding by the law and only using the licensed firearms that we have. Fuel pumps are running dry. Food shops cannot open due to the unrest. The main supply routes have been attacked, so trucks can't get into the province with supplies. And yet, no support comes. Why has the government not stepped up to stop the madness? So I think that's a really good point being made by this person who's emailed me, who I will keep anonymous for obvious reasons.
That's what we've all been asking. Why isn't government stepping up?
It's really unacceptable that the government are allowing ordinary citizens to suffer through this when this is the job of the military. This is the job. This is why we pay a government. One of the only things they're there to do is to make sure that you and I are kept safe from the predation of criminals and outlaws. That is the whole reason to have a government.
Yeah.
The second reason we have a government is to enforce our rights, our property rights, our rights to life, our rights to dignity, our rights to safety, all of those things. So if they're not ticking those two boxes, then guess what? You don't have a government. Then you are already living in anarchy, in which case don't pay your taxes, immediately stop doing that, and stop doing the things that government needs from you in order to make it work for them. Because if they're not helping you, there's no reason to help them. Really, it's absolutely frightening. Dogos are saying the situation is wild here in KZN. It's quite overwhelming, to be honest.
Jeez.
Yeah. I have a question.
Yes.
Do you guys, because now obviously after this, a lot of people are going to be out of work. We know, there's this whole snowball. Do you guys think that break-ins are going to
go up,
treble and quadruple, and because this makes, to me, I'm going like, there's going to be so many break-ins. We are going to reel from it. We thought people are breaking in now. We thought people are, taking from us now. But after this, there are going to be so many people without work, because one person often would feed 10 people, in a household. That's going to fall away now. So what's going to happen? I'm just thinking.
Well, all that's going to happen, Shemaine, is that the bad people are going to become much more brazen because they see that law enforcement doesn't work, right? The only thing in a civilized society that keeps criminals at bay is a police force that's sharp and that does its job. That's it.
It's been said by a great, and as South Africans, sometimes we're quite flippant about rules and the law, and we always say, it's kind of cool. You can float in between, and so some bloke a long time ago, I think his name was Aristotle, and he said, law is order and good law is good order, and we are paying the price for not having good order before. And I know we always like, South Africa's kind of cool, man, you can get away with it. This is the price and I know it's brutal for some people that are in it right now to hear it, but there is no better time to probably be this brutal. This is the time to say, this is why you need order. Because if there was order before, and this is what rules are for, people always think rules are for when things are going well. Rules are not to make things go well, and rules are for when things go wrong, you have a system to fall back on. Now, the erosion of our system...
You when you get married, you don't sign a prenup because you're happy and you're about to get married. You sign a prenup because things might get bad and this is what you'll have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I hope we start to take this more seriously, especially where we are closer to the sanctums of power, where we live, is we need to take these things seriously and organize, because this is what happens. And listen, it'll see, the Caesar said, are those barbarians at my gate? Because we always think that living in our lovely estates. And until Caesar actually had the barbarians at his gate and he was asking, was it Brutus, Gareth? are those the barbarians at my gate after Rome hadn't been, the walls of Rome hadn't fallen in how many thousand years? Is your estate? It's very comfortable for us to constantly go, we can make our own laws, we can manage ourselves, until the proverbial barbarians are at the gate. And they will come if we don't take this seriously and take this as a teaching moment to say, genoeg now at the top.
I agree, but there is only so much that ordinary citizens can do. And I've got to give all the praise that I have to ordinary citizens who are stepping up at the moment and doing what they can. And that email that I just read, refers to those precise people. But there's only so much those people can do against a rampaging mob of crazy criminal lunatics. And the government has to step up and protect its citizens now. And that means either declaring a state of emergency and just going full tilt with the military, martial law, even if that's necessary. I never thought in my lifetime I'd have to be calling for martial law. But if that's the case, because with martial law, if you see someone with a TV, you shoot them. That's what happens. Martial law allows the government to take some fairly severe and dramatic action.
So are you proposing a state of emergency?
Well, I'm not, because I don't trust this government, frankly. This is the problem. I'm also, and that's why I wrote my article. It's I titled it "Between a Rock and a Hard Place," because as much as we need the government to take control, this government has shown itself incapable of doing that, even in the good times. So how good are they going to be in the bad times?
How long until the weapons turn on the government, do you think? Because people are, poor people aren't stupid. Sometimes, I do this. I did it with my security guard yesterday. Is sometimes you think if somebody is poor, they are less intelligent. People are not stupid just because they're poor. Is at some stage, we've seen this. It happened in France. We've seen it before throughout history. How long until the weapons turn from the civil society on the government? I think people are fed up of now going to rob. I think that, honestly, I think South Africans are now tired of, no, man, it's not just the white people. It's not just the rich people. And you guys still have BMWs there. You're still earning your full salary. We've never seen anything of you suffering. Okay, so it's not the white people. It's not the ones living. No, man, let's talk again. And then I don't know if we're too far away from, I'm not calling for it. I'm saying union buildings having the proverbial guillotines at the step.
You better be sure not to call for it, because that would be...
No, I'm not saying that.
If you do say that, that's
you'll go to jail. Garrett's going to miss you. He'll be tried.
Yeah, and I do not speak for the people, to be very clear. So I'm just wondering, and what I'm observing, and some of the things I'm hearing, reading, people are speaking more about the beloved ANC and these guys more than what I used to see. And I think, Charmaine, you put it beautifully. We're less divided on that racial sort of economic lines in these testing times. And I think that's a great thing. We all need to focus at where the real problem is rather than the symptoms, the core of the problem. We have to call it the ANC for now. Yeah.
The disillusionment is real. So,
and plus I've had to change Woolworths, imagine. Charmaine, I don't know if you caught that. I've had to go to another Woolworths as well in all of this. So
come on.
To do what? I didn't catch.
No, our other Woolworths is closed.
Local Woolworths is closed.
I love it. Well, when I say I love it, I'm saying that with I'm saying that with respect. No, because you can choose, and that we should all be able to choose. Go ahead.
I got some videos yesterday from friends of mine who are in KZN, and there are people lining up at the few shops.
They couldn't go to Woolworths.
No. It's serious.
I'm sorry.
There are people lined up at the one or two shops that are open, and queues are like 300 or 400 people deep, and that's not funny. That's the kind of thing where you think, oh God, all right, because look, most of us don't have huge vegetable gardens we can rely on. When our fridge is empty, when the pantry is empty, then we don't have food. That's a serious situation to be in. No matter who you are, let's not talk about soft people in the suburbs. Some of these people are not soft. Some of these people, like the email I just read, some of these emails come from people who have been in Afghanistan and Iraq. They're not soft people, okay? They depend on a civilized society to operate around them for things like food, no matter what they've been doing in their lives, no matter how it looks like. They're just ordinary old citizens. These people know how to operate and they know how to handle themselves. They just happen to be stuck in a situation that isn't of their making, which they didn't expect to happen. I mean, 2 weeks ago, nobody expected any of this to happen. So you've got to be a little bit forgiving and understanding.
Yeah, no, we didn't. We thought that's rubbish. Nobody will do that.
Yeah.
I mean, there were rumors, but we were like, rubbish. You know, why would that even? Yeah. So you're right. We didn't think.
Cricket says here this morning, how people in town are worried and impacted now. He says, imagine farmers have been sitting with the barbarians at the gate for many years now. Lol, if they act, they get criticized, and that has happened. We've spoken about it on this show before, where people were saying, please, the farmers, they're overreacting. Gareth, there are two people we haven't heard from in a while. Can you reach out to Siv Ngesi and Justice Malala? Please see what you can do. That's from Carl. Actually, we are going to talk to Siv. He's, I think he might even be joining us next week. So hang around for that. He'll be on. Mfundo Dlala says, this is our Mfundo, Cliff Central Mfundo. He says, the Spar in Hillcrest, Durban next to me opened yesterday and we went home with nothing. Completely sold out of all needed products. You see, this is what I'm talking about. Oh my God.
You know what the thing about South Africans is, and I'm not just trying to be glib, and is that I bet you give it a week and a half, 2. I bet you they will start. South Africans will figure out their own network of how to operate foods. Farmers will come together with the community, and not on economic lines, because this is what South Africans just do. And I'm not saying it glibly. We've been doing it. This government has left us on our own, and we've been figuring it out. And I know the Durbanites are suffering now. I bet you they're going to figure it out. I just know they are, because we've been doing it.
They will. So apparently, according to B, the police minister, that's Becky Cele, has said he knows who's behind instigating this. So who do we think it is? I mean, that's
if they know. Bring the people.
Tell us, take us into your confidence, because then we can be allies to you. You know, if your control of the country is slipping out of your hands. But
this fucking secrecy, this shit of secrecy, I cannot deal. I cannot deal. You know, we are treated like children when it's convenient. You know, so tell us. There are so many secrets here. I mean, and that's why we're in some of this mess, because this one doesn't want to split on the other one. It's like it's a frat, you know, it's like, I don't know, it's a special kind of grouping that goes like, no, we can't talk about that. No, we can't. And this, do you know what gets my goat?
Go on. I like when you get
this
upset.
Thing when people go, don't do that. I want to see I want to see the two of you. This thing when people say that we're having a family meeting. The president calls a family meeting. You know, that hurts me so, because it's never a family meeting. And you know, the other day when the shit hit the fan, how long did we wait? The whole day for him to speak. For a family meeting. No, we should call this a family fight, you know, because we need to be able to get in there so that it's not just a delivered speech, you know, very measured, very proper. I hate it when they call this the president's coming into our lounges. There's no family meeting. There's only one person speaking. And I no. So it took him hours to say to us, the country's on fire, you know, and tomorrow we will do something about it.
Yeah.
Amen.
And then tomorrow came and nothing happened.
Get your
Amen.
act together.
Amen.
No, but don't you guys find this family meeting bullshit nonsense?
Listen, if my school report came back awful, which it always did, my father dealt with that thing. He called everyone now. I'm in the middle of the day. There's a disaster now. By the way, we want to show you what an incompetent person looks like and what happened. You don't wait. No, man.
Even though you
well said, Charmaine, man. No, really well said. Beautifully put.
We have to change gear quickly and talk. Well, we're going to talk
speak mummy. You have to speak mummy.
I've been talking about Meg Fora for a while, and we're going to find out about PlaySense and also this Play Box. I know there are a lot of parents who, quite apart from all the other stuff that's going on, are struggling to keep their kids entertained and keep them stimulated. And of course, we're going through a long winter school holiday. They've extended it. The third wave has made the president extend it to the 25th or so. And it's going to be a real challenge for parents of preschoolers in particular who have to adapt to homebound indoor activities. Having your little one at home for the entire holidays can be pretty daunting for any parent. And there are only a certain number of opportunities you have to ramble and play outside. And many parents are wondering how they're going to cope. So I thought we'd try and help you out this morning in whatever way we can. And let's welcome Meg Forer, who is the founder of PlaySense, to talk to us about igniting your kids' super senses. So, hey, Meg, how are you doing?
Good, thanks, and you, Gareth. Good to see you all.
Yeah,
Hey.
there's so much insane shit going down all over the place. It's good to actually talk about something where we can do something. And I first of all got to congratulate you on filling a gap, because there are so many parents at the moment who are so frustrated for all the obvious reasons. Tell us about, first of all, your company, PlaySense, and then tell us about the Playbox.
So PlaySense was originally pre-COVID, kind of BC times. We were a micro school program. So we sent children into, we sent teachers into children's homes to look after up to 6 children. So it was a play group for 2 to 5-year-olds in a home, controlled environment. It was kind of a sane world. And come March last year, obviously all of our playgroups had to close overnight. And at the time, we thought it was just going to be for a couple of weeks. But what we did anyway was that we kind of pivoted it into a online program. So we delivered activities to our parents, and then our teachers would actually Zoom into their rooms or into their houses twice a day and kind of guide the parents through the playing with their kids and also entertain the children a little bit. So that's kind of what PlaySense is all about historically.
Cool. What a brilliant idea.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's not a perfect science. One of the things with 2 to 5-year-olds, and it's very different when you get into primary school education and high school education, we've, kind of the education tech system or the ed tech environment has kind of got that one covered because children can learn through screens. But for little children from 2 to 5 years old, it's a real challenge because parents didn't sign up to have their kids at home with them all day while they were trying to juggle work. That's a really complicated world.
I mean, holding their attention is almost impossible. I mean, I know I've got 2 little nephews. One is 7 and one is 5. But the younger one, like, you try and keep him focused on anything for more than 5 minutes. It's impossible.
No, I mean, if you look at all the research coming out worldwide, I mean, it's horrific for parents and particularly women have actually taken the knock here where, you're at home, you've got to continue your jobs, but somebody's got to entertain the children. Somebody has to educate them. And so keeping them occupied, keeping them focused and actually just keeping yourself sane when you've got a 2 to 5-year-old at home it's a proper challenge. And then you're trying to get on with work and do Zooms, it's a crazy world.
I'm a little, you said you paraphrasing here, Meg, but that you have to teach parents how to play with their children. One would expect that kind of almost comes naturally. What methods do you use? And I mean, when is a parent not able or in the mindset to be able to just take the child and play with him? What do they need to do then?
Yeah, I mean, you've actually hit on 2 aspects of it. The one aspect is that for many of us as adults, we've actually forgotten how to play. The world has become so goal-driven, tick every box, go through the motions. And play is anything but that. Play is spontaneous, play is engaged, play is in the moment. And so part of just the way that we live our lives means that we've forgotten how to play. So there's the piece about helping parents to actually find the playfulness inside of them. But the other part is that when you're stressed and when things are going down, like things are going down at the moment in South Africa and in the world, you actually don't know how to play because you don't want to be spontaneous. So, coming alongside parents and supporting them to look after their little ones, be in the moment and actually, A, keep their children entertained, B, give them a bit of education is really what it's all about for us.
So basically you're saying to parents, relax. So in the parent relaxing, it bleeds into the child's space and then the child becomes loose and playful. Because it is so that when, and I mean, they kind of like they like animals. They get the emotional spaces that we in, So because if we don't enjoy being with them, they basically don't enjoy being with us.
Yeah, it's more than just relaxing. I think if parents have some sort of guideline as to what to do. So one of the things that we did when we COVID last year, we turned it around and we said, we're going to give you 2 activities every day, just 2 simple things. We're not going to push the limits here. We're just going to give you little parameters within which you can play. And that was what we did initially last year. And it was a paid for product, and we were just supporting parents. This year, it's totally different because we've decided to give it completely for free, because we just can see that parents, they just need to have 1 or 2 activities to do every day that they can structure their day around. So they know that at 10 o'clock in the morning, when they take a break from their business meetings, whatever it is, they can do this activity with their child. And that's what the Playbox is about.
So joining and being part of it is free, but then you still have a kit that you need to buy. Is that still the case?
Yeah, so you don't have to buy the kit. So basically what you do, it's completely for free. We send you, and it's not exactly the same as our original curriculum. Our original curriculum was actually delivered on an electronic portal. So we're not giving parents access to the electronic portal. What we're doing is we send them a book once a week. So it's a little, it's an electronic, obviously, format book, PDF, and it's got 2 activities for every day according to a theme. So this week's theme might be the bug theme, and next week might be the jungle theme, and you just get 2 activities every day. And that you can do, and the stuff we use, you don't really need to have the kit to be able to do it. You can do it with, things from your supermarket if your supermarket was open. But
give me an example, because this sounds terrific. But I mean, I'm trying to picture it now. Is there a simple example you can give us from like the one that you put out yesterday or something? We'd understand.
So there would be something like, if the theme was bugs, there'd be something about building a little beehive. So you might have a little empty egg box container. You're going to paint it yellow, turn it into a little bit of a beehive, and you're going to put little bees into the hive. So it's a very simple activity. The parents generally, it's not rocket science, but we do also guide you as to how to improve language, how to improve pre-math skills. So we have the little skills coming through as well. So it's educational as well as just keeping your child entertained. The actual play box is different. You can buy that separately. So that's the little kit, but you don't have to buy that.
I remember
love that there's structure. That there's so especially when the parents' head is all over the place, you know exactly where you're going to and what you're going to focus on. So that already is a help.
When I was a kid, I was probably impossible too. My mother she'd give us this book, which was like a bunch of things you could do and make. And I mean, we went through that book within the first week of a school holiday, and then from there on, we were screwed. So then she'd say, just go outside and play. Obviously, you can't do that now while it's very, very cold, and for many people, there isn't an outside to go to. Especially at the moment, it's not necessarily the best idea in the world to go and play in the street. So for a lot of kids, that boredom sets in, and there's nothing worse for a parent than, I imagine, there are lots of things that are terrible, but there's nothing worse if you're in an irritable place and you're trying to do some work and your kid keeps coming in and going, I'm bored, I'm bored, I'm bored.
Yeah.
These days, for most parents, the default is a screen anyway. It's TV or it's games or it's something like that. That's not necessarily the best solution.
No, and that's why, there are 2 things about particularly the toddler brain. They need sensory engagement and social engagement. Those are the 2 things that wire the human brain at that age. And so, the activities will give them the sensory engagement, and then obviously getting a bit of one-on-one time with mom or dad also then gives them the emotional engagement. What we found is that there's, you can kind of stage your day, and this is a practical way that parents can do it now in lockdown because they're trying to do their Zooms, kids at home. Set aside 2 slots in the day, and particularly if you're both at home, probably you are, one take the morning slot, one take the afternoon slot, and say that's activity time, let's say, and do our activities. And then in addition to that, we've actually got our online teachers, our teachers who usually do teach online, are entertaining the children twice a day as well. That's also free. So all you do is you'll get the register from us every day that says, Teacher Joan is on with a puppet show today at 2 o'clock. And so then you turn on your screen, and admittedly it is screen time, but it's a different type of screen time to TV, where TV is very much just ingesting. This is more engagement. So you'd set up your computer, they go online with Joan or whoever it is who's doing story time that day. So we've got like various times of the day where we are keeping little ones entertained.
Well, here's
Until
Karen.
when is this?
Sorry, Shemaine. Karen says, I bought the PlaySense box out of desperation, says Karen. As our 21-month-old is at home, went to the PlaySense group, which is great, but it ends at 12:30, so it doesn't help me after that, and I'm stuck in work from 8 to 5. Well, Karen, we can't solve all your problems, but I'm glad that it managed to take care of some of them.
But it was a help. So the one side is you helped
Yeah. So what Karen's talking about there is she's actually the PlaySense group she joined is our in-home micro school group. I'm presuming I don't actually know Karen. So our in-home micro school groups run from 8 until 12:30, and so the parents that join that usually are parents who've got a nanny at home who can collect their little one around midday. So that's the one piece. The play boxes, obviously you do it in your own time, and it is only 2 activities. It's not going to entertain your kid the whole day, but it's just a little piece to get a bit of sanity. But I'm really glad that made a difference.
Until when are you running this? Sorry.
So the actual play box is a 4-week program. So the idea was, obviously we all saw the third wave coming. And so we said to our team, let's get something together that's completely free of charge, just gets parents in and just kind of is a quick fix for those 4 weeks. And so we actually thought lockdown would start about a week before holidays, which it did. We thought it would run through holidays. And I predicted probably will go another week or so after holidays. So we're going to get a good 4 weeks in there. Okay. After that, if parents are still interested in being involved, then they can join our proper online school, and that there is a charge for that. Although we are offering a significant discount on that as well. And then you have your activities every morning and your teacher who entertains your child through the day.
Tracy wants to know, Meg, it's easy to keep little ones under 5 busy and entertained. Well, you say so, Tracy. I disagree. Trouble comes when they're between 6 and 11. Yes, says Tracy. Any advice apart from iPads, etc.? Lego and books only last so long. Do you have any advice for parents over 6? Because that is a tough age group to keep entertained.
Yeah, it's not too different from kids of all ages in that often what we've done is we've kind of taught them to always be entertained. And iPads are a classic example of that. The way that the programs are actually built is to give you a quick fix and to keep you engaged and to also keep you going in one direction. Even something like Minecraft, essentially you're getting your fixes as you go and as you build it. What actually happens with imagination, with creativity, is that it's a blank canvas. It's like having nothing to do, getting bored, and then actually going and investigating and creating something. So my advice to moms of kids of all ages is to try and not be terrified of boredom with your kids. It's okay if they're bored. You don't have to be responsible for keeping them entertained. Give them a box. The best thing in the whole world is a box, like toilet rolls in a box, because you can build things, you can construct things. So try and give them things that are more open-ended. And there's a lot of research that actually shows that if we give our children more open-ended activities and engage their imagination more, we're going to end up developing the soft skills for the future. And that's things like creativity.
And they should work. Back in the Victorian times, they would have been in a factory. Fucking complaining. Lenice, to my point, says, I give my kids chores to help me until 11 in the morning. And then they know that there are no TV, no tablets or any of that stuff until 5 p.m. They had to get creative or we'll clean something again. So that's also,
I love it.
put to work.
Exactly.
Yeah, and shouldn't children between 6 and 11 read a little more? Yeah. Okay, Tracy, I don't know you, and I know it's a difficult age, but I'm like between 6 and when I was between 6 and 11, and all the kids I know between 6 and 11, they need to read.
No, absolutely, and having boundaries in your day. And I love what she just said. Like iPads or TV are after 5 o'clock. There's chores until 11. There's some time for reading, and then there's some time for just being bored. Like go out and do something creative, and then so mix up the day a little.
Absolutely.
Run like Mbulelo. Because exercise, that's what we don't do. We don't exercise. Mbulelo is saying yes.
Amen.
Yeah. Of course, he's been ominously silent during this conversation about children. Courtney says kids are like puppies. You give them an expensive toy and they look for the cardboard box to play with. That's true.
Exactly.
I love what you said there, Meg, about building things, because I used to have as a kid, there was a set of probably 8 or 9 wooden blocks. We built everything out of those blocks, no matter what other complicated toys we got. And later on, obviously, we started getting, toys that we really wanted instead of ones that our parents thought we wanted. And I'm talking about, going up to sort of age 10, 11. But we still used to use those blocks to build houses for those action figures or whatever else it was. Those were easily the most useful tools we ever had. And they were painted in different colors. But by the time I think my brother reached 10 years old, they looked like they'd been through Afghanistan.
I remember those blocks.
Everything you could build out of those blocks we'd built, and you can use your imagination to make it pretty much anything you want. The toys don't have to be expensive and complex.
Sophisticated.
No, and
Meg.
actually, in fact, I mean, the toys that are currently on the market for kids are actually really not great for long-term life skills, because they're usually things that are unidirectional. There's a cause and there's an effect, and so children can learn that cause and effect very well, but it doesn't open up their imagination. And so we always say to parents in PlaySense, go for the most basic things, the empty boxes and the blocks. I mean, you mentioned it, Gareth. Those are the two things that we recommend that parents actually use, because those things do unleash imagination.
Well, there's that very funny meme that's been going around of that guy who's trying to get the Hisense TV into his Toyota Corolla. And the meme is, that kid obviously, when he didn't play with
I'm seeing
trying
that.
to get the square into the square and the circle into the circle, and those kinds of toys.
So, Meg, one thing I was just thinking on is that also we always make it about the children. As I'm getting older, I'm getting more grateful for my parents, both for what they did. Is also I'm getting more empathetic, and I'm not naturally an empath for parents, and to tell them that you don't have to be perfect. There's all, like, Hollywood's putting pressure on parents to be the perfect mom, the perfect dad. It's like, you don't have to be perfect. Your children aren't going to break, by the way, should you be tough on them. Should you have a tough day? And I know there's so much pressure on parents, especially especially when you're associating. Oh, did you hear Janet did this? And it's like, who cares who these people are? You don't have to be perfect. You are great as long as you love your kids. And I can only empathize, but I don't know if parents hear that enough, because I would imagine if it's your own kids, you want to be perfect for them. You don't have to be perfect.
The perfect parent and to have all the resources on hand all the time. You're meant to have endless amounts of money to pay for all the different things it needs to be. You need to be in extra lessons for 5,000 different things. That's making parents extremely unpleasant to be around, because they're trying to live up to a standard that's impossible to reach.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's actually some really good research on that came out like in the mid 1900s that spoke about the good enough mother. That was the term that was phrased, or the phrase that was termed. And what it really was that if you're good enough, in other words, you have to fail some of the time, and they actually worked it out as a percentage eventually, your children actually grow up better adjusted, they grow up happier children. And what they found was that percentage, I mean, you won't believe this, but you only have to get it right 20% of the time. The other 80%, it's okay to fail. It's okay to be slightly delayed in getting to your toddler who needs his bum wiped, or, whatever it is, the little pieces of delay, little pieces of frustration are very healthy for children. And in actual fact, we now know that those are the things that create resilience, because if everything goes your way, if everything's picture perfect, if your parent is always on the ball and you get everything that you want all the time, you grow up with those expectations for the world, and the world isn't like that, So
and for yourself, and that is unattainable.
Exactly. And I think this perfect parenting, I mean, you bring it up, it's so true. This perfect parenting is a myth, and it's something that puts so much pressure on moms. And Instagram, I'm sorry to say, does nobody any favors, because you only see the good stuff. You see the picture perfect parenting, and it's not like that.
Yeah. No, it makes it well nigh impossible to live up to any of those standards. So, Meg, this is terrific. How can people get hold of you, and how can they get hold of Playbox? Because this school holiday, what parent isn't going to mortgage the car and the house if they have to keep the children at bay? I mean, what can we do?
Yeah, so the best thing is to go onto our website, which is playsense.org, and have a look for the Playbox on there. It's right up there. You can also go onto our Instagram feed, which is playsense223. It's that's the Instagram handle. It's there. You can order it. There is a link in our link tree. And as I said, if you're immediately into the funnel, you get the little books delivered to you every week with all the activities. There are the boxes. You can buy the stuff, but it's definitely, you don't have to buy the stuff. It's most stuff that's found around the house or in a general supermarket. And that's all you need to do. And then from there, we send you every day your routine of which teacher's on at which time, what puppet show is happening, who's doing story time today. And then if you do want something a little more formalized, you can actually join our online groups, which are a whole lot, then you pay for it and it's a whole lot more formal, but there's no need for that. We really, really, really are just wanting to support parents now.
Well, I think that's terrific.
Wow.
We will post all the
Right.
links on cliffcentral.com as well so that you can get all the help that you need. And Meg, can continue, please, to do the good work that you're doing. You're keeping so many parents sane when they could easily slip into crazy.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for the time, Gareth.
Pleasure. Nice to see you. Isn't that cool?
Wow, that's
That's
awesome.
very cool. That's gonna. I think she's creating a space for kids to get less spankings.
Yeah. Well, maybe more depending.
Well,
But I mean, it's great that somebody's thinking about the parents, because I know some of them are on on the edge of their their sense of sanity and reality.
And it's
I love
okay.
it's hard.
Yeah, I love this though. This Courtney says she's she was listening to that now. She said, "I've been awake in KZN with gunshots from 1:40 a.m. Cut me some slack." Now, you imagine if you're a parent there, then you've got some
Oh,
fairly
Lord.
pressing issues to worry about.
Wow.
It's amazing. Yeah. So if
Yeah.
you've got questions, you can obviously follow them on social media, and they might be able to help you sort out some things too. So
So
Shemaine,
when are you guys going to have children? Stop asking me about my life.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Okay,
my-
that's the no.
No, wait, I'll answer that.
no hurry.
My
No
plan
hurry.
is I need to marry a professional athlete because I need to raise a professional athlete, and that's my retirement plan. And they're impossible to find. Most athletes are busy
Williams.
training. Yeah,
Change
yeah.
your surname to
Nah,
Williams.
it's too
Just
late.
go
It's
on. Go on.
It's too late. Both are taken. Both are married.
Interesting. Isn't this an interesting thing? Jawiza says South Africa is in Bastille Day mode, and today happens to be Bastille Day. So happy Bastille Day.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting? Just, if you're interested.
Yeah.
Bastille Day is obviously the day that the revolutionaries in Paris stormed the prison called the
Yes.
Bastille. There's nothing left of it now. You go to the Place de la Bastille and it's like shops and cafes. But it used to be the scene where, many French, mostly political prisoners were kept. At the time they stormed it, by the way, there were only about 3 or 4 people in it. and none of them
Wow.
were particularly well-known prisoners. So it was a bit of a damp squib by the time they eventually-
Anticlimax.
yeah. Yes, anticlimax is exactly right. But there we go. Happy Bastille Day. So to all the French, bon anniversaire, I suppose is the way to say it. All right.
Nice.
What else is
You have
going on?
3 French words that you know.
Three French words. That's all I got.
I'm sorry. I'm just
I know. Outrageous.
wrong. I'm wrong. I'm sorry.
So
Go on.
tell us what else is on your mind. You can get hold of us on the YouTube comments, like so many people already have. This is quite interesting. Bulela's got a story out of China. A guy in China. This is weird. This is absolutely wild. Just to make you think that you're not the only one who's seeing some crazy shit happen in your life at the moment.
So, guy had a child, right, being taken away as a child, like literally as a small child, like
Start that again.
2,
You're
3
breaking
years
up
old.
really badly. We can't hear you.
So imagine your child being taken away at the age of like 2, 3 years old as you're working inside and they're playing in the garden,
Oh my
and then
God.
seeing them 26 years later being found by the police. 26 years. Yeah, a father in China found his son that was snatched from the front yard 26 years ago.
How
And
did you
yeah,
recognize him?
well, they were reunited by the police. The case was solved. And interestingly, as I was reading this article, was that it's actually an ongoing thing in China where children get snatched. And the article says one of the things is the children will go and be taken to work in a factory in the next province or whatever it may be. Yeah, it's like, and there are hundreds of thousands of dockets, the article says, of these cases that have happened that are unsolved with the police. Isn't that another level? 26
I'm getting
years.
chills.
It's incredible, eh?
Well, that's almost as long as Nelson Mandela was in jail. And remember, people even forgot what he looked like. So you imagine as a parent, just the mixed feelings you must have
Oh,
when you suddenly reunited with your kid, who you haven't really ever spent any time with because he was 2 when you last saw him. My God, that's
And can
unbelievable.
you? And those people could only have children once.
Yeah, that's
You know.
right.
So were you allowed to then have another child because yours is gone? Can you imagine
Great
that?
question. No, I don't know, but that's, when people talk about, oh, China's a great place. Yeah. Hear stories like this a little bit more. Your child's abducted to go and work in a factory at 2 years old.
But isn't that universal, though? Isn't that what
Yeah.
happens universally nowadays with child trafficking, with any kind of trafficking? People just, and I mean, it's been happening forever. Now we highlighted this shit's been happening for hundreds of years.
I mean, please, the guy on Gossip Girl was eating people.
Oh, stop it!
Oh yeah, no, real thing. The stuff came out about the guy from Gossip Girl who was got caught for the messages about being a cannibal and sending messages to people.
Stop it!
Are we talking about the same guy? Are we not talking about Army Hammer?
Yeah, well, I mean, cannibal's a bit strong. Yeah, him and his.
Right. Yeah.
Stop it! I want to tell you something about the eating of human flesh. I don't eat meat, so it's kind of
here.
gross.
Stop everything.
Yeah, stop the buses.
Go on.
There was this Japanese guy who ate different kinds of meat. And he was like, white flesh is very tender, and black flesh is very very tough. It's kind of like tougher to eat. Yeah, so he had different versions of the shit. So I was like,
I think that's just racism, because as far as I can tell, the muscles are exactly the same.
I don't know. I'm not the one who was eating the meat.
Do you think he used to spice it? Like to cannibals spice it?
I don't know. All I know is he said,
What if I put on a little bit of
white flesh
origami?
is
Yeah,
and
like
thyme.
I'll take Italian, but I like it with pepper and a mushroom sauce. Like, I do wonder how.
I'd like to eat your liver with some fava beans and a fine Chianti.
So, but you guys should look it up. You know, it's like,
Oh, that is amazing.
white flesh, tender, black flesh, tougher.
Okay.
So, hey,
They say that all of us are the other kind of white meat, that we're a lot more like pork than anything else.
yeah, it's possible. I mean, I wouldn't know. I've never tried human meat.
No,
I
thank
mean,
God.
just looking at a corpse is like already sending me in a direction that you don't want to. Oh, what macabre! This conversation's gone off the rails.
You took it here, Shemaine Harris.
Yeah.
We weren't going in this direction. You brought it to this. I just want to quickly put up this comment, because it's actually a question from Courtney. She says, what's happening in Durban Harbour at the moment? Because there are obviously lots of things happening. And Bev says, Courtney, I don't know. I don't see any smoke from the harbour, but Springfield is still burning.
Jeez.
And that's been going on since Monday. So if you have any information for Courtney about the harbour, please let us know. I saw a
Maybe
couple of
she
videos.
needs that app that you talked about earlier. Maybe she can find it.
That's actually a good thing to end it on, because we're pretty much out of time for this morning. But the appengine.policylab.app map, which will allow you to see where the unrest is happening. Very, very helpful. And you can go and download the link, which we'll put up on cliffcentral.com. It should be able to help you just figure out what's going on where. And please keep yourself out of trouble this morning and for the rest of the day. I don't think that these protests, in inverted commas, these criminals, are going to be able to sustain themselves for much longer than a couple of days, because just like so many people who are trying to defend themselves against this are exhausted, so are they. So please, hold fussbait in good old South African terms. Fussbait, and we're thinking of you. We'll be back here tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. bright and early. You can go and check out my blog on cliffcentral.com. Get this unrest map so you can see what's going on there too. And we are holding thumbs for you. South Africa is made of good, strong, solid people who stand together in tough times. Tough times never last.
Only tough people do. Only South Africans do.
Remember him.
He's awesome.
Jermaine, lovely to see you again. I hope you're going to keep well, and we'll keep in contact and check in with you again soon.
Yeah, that would be lovely. So it was really great meeting you in Mbulelo, and it was good to see you, Gareth. Thank you for the good time. I had a good morning.
Thank you. Lots of luck.
Namaste.
Namaste, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.